I'm sure we'll have a few late arrivals, which is not unusual, but that's fine. We'll just still be doing introductions and gathering. I do want to bring this meeting to order, though, for the West Advisory Committee on November 9th, 2023. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to turn it right over to Chris for roll call.
All right. Thank you, Diana. Start with Christopher Bowker.
Here.
And Carol Brake.
Here.
Richard Craven. Oh.
He's here.
I see you. Greg DiLoretto.
Here.
Anthony Fields.
I'm here.
William Gifford. I don't think I've seen William here yet. So Councillor Goloby.
Here.
Renee Harbor.
Here.
Diana Helm.
Here.
Brian Johnson. Not yet. Roseanne Johnson. Not yet. Preston. Not yet. Mayor Milch.
Here.
Catherine Miller.
Here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And we have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. So we're just going to move in. There's a lot of things going on tonight. The West Advisory Committee recruitments are open, as you all know. We encourage the current members to, with their upcoming expiration dates, to reapply, and anybody else interested. I know Chris did send out recruitment notices for the committee, and hopefully we'll see some people step up into some of those positions. I see Brian is trying to connect again, and Adam is getting on now too. Chris, when people are joining late, do you want me to stop the meeting, or do you want me to just announce that they have joined?
Announcing they've joined is perfect, and I'll mark it down. Perfect.
All right. Brian is here, it looks like, or we just lost him again, I think. And Adam is here as well. I think Brian's been on a couple times. Oh, there he is. All right. All right. So they're here. And just also for an information, the 2024 meeting schedule will be coming out soon. You're going to see one new proposal. We are recommending that the in-person meetings being moved to our standing meeting time due to the issue that so many people had with the lunchtime meetings. And it looks like we are going to go to all in-person meetings next year, with the possibility of hybrid, from what I understand.
Can I give a clarification, Chair Helm?
Yes.
So we will still have the same balance. It'll mixed meetings. So there'll still be 2 in-person meetings. It's just that we will move them from the lunchtime hour to our standard meeting hour with the option of hybrid, and the rest being Zoom. Right. So 4 out of 6 on Zoom and 2 hybrid. But not
lunchtime meetings.
Correct.
Okay, very good. And then I will turn it over to, and Preston Korst is here also, Chris. Michael, let's see if there's anybody else that's new. Hi, Aaron. I'm going to turn it right over to Greg Geist.
Thank you, Diana. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. And yeah, it's our last meeting of the year. So I wanted to thank you for your service this year, and I look forward to working with most, or hopefully all of you, in the coming year. And I just wanted to acknowledge what a powerhouse group we have here, and I hear about it all the time. Working with the board as I do, having a high-powered and diverse, with different perspectives, group like this that's informing the decisions that they're making carries a lot of weight and brings a lot of credibility. And I just want to thank you all for that. I also want to welcome our new member, Councillor Carol Brake from West Lynn, who's replacing Mary Baumgartner. Councillor Brake, is there anything you'd like to say or introduce yourself?
Well, just had the election on Tuesday. It looks like I won since I was running unopposed. And I'm really happy to be here and to be part of this group. Just briefly, for those that don't know me, I spent the last 12 years of my career as the CFO for Clackamas River Water. So I have been involved in water for quite a while. Prior to that, I worked for the city of Lake Oswego for 7 to 8 years. So got a lot of government finance experience. So really happy to be here and find out everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you for that. And I have just to share with the group, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I speak with Todd Heidgerken pretty frequently at Clackamas River Water, and he definitely was lamenting your departure. You left some very big shoes to fill, and it took quite a while to get somebody that he was comfortable with filling your role there. So well done, and thank you for your service. A couple of just things to talk about. We recently got board approval for, well, the guaranteed maximum price and board approval for moving forward with the final design and construction of the new Tri-City outfall, which is a huge, huge endeavor. It involved a ballot measure in Oregon City, tons of work with Jeff and his engineering team and our legal team and our procurement team and our finance team. It's finally coming to fruition, and I was reflecting to my staff that it is the single largest construction project that WES has undertaken since the membrane bioreactor back in about 2010. So it's a big, big project. I'm feeling really good about it, and looking forward to moving down the road with that. Another one that is not so big as far as dollars and cents that we also received approval for proceeding with design is our remodel of our Kellogg Creek Administration Building, which is not just a remodel of a building, but it's actually consolidating various functions into the current and expanding the current administrative services building to allow for future process improvements at the Kellogg facility. So it's about an engineering estimate, about a $3.8 million project. So, I mean, we have a lot bigger projects that we're working on, but it's going to be a very visible one, being right next to Highway 99. So happy about that as well. And then lastly, we are gearing up and having a lot of fun for our annual holiday party. And I think this one's going to be one for the ages. So, and you'll all get an invite to that. Hopefully you can attend. And yeah, those are kind of some of the bigger and funner things going on at WES. Thank you.
Okay, and Chris, I think you saw that William is now on Zoom as well. Welcome, William. Nice to see you.
Better late than never. Having technology problems. Thanks very much for waiting.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't wait, but thanks anyway.
No, we didn't wait for you. The clock is ticking. All right, very good. So we're going to move on to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. I just need a consensus on this. Does anyone have any issues with the last set of meeting notes that we have?
Good.
All right, very good. All right, motion carries. Well, we're just going to say yes and move on with that one. Very good. Thumbs up. I love it. Chris, do we have anyone for public comment tonight?
If there's anybody from the public, please feel free to raise your hand. Use the raise hand feature, but I don't see anybody from the public online.
All right, very good. Thank you. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Stollard, Capital Improvement Program Manager, and Aaron Blue, our Finance Manager. And this is something that I am looking for a motion of support on after their presentation this evening. So Jeff, not sure who's starting, probably you.
That would be me. Excellent. Thank you all for.
Oh, great. Oh, sorry. Greg Geist.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to remind folks, especially for our new member, that this is our 5-year capital improvement plan. We revise it and reapprove it every year. We bring it to the advisory committee and ultimately the Board of County Commissioners. And yeah, and we're excited to bring this one forward. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
She's already reviewed it, Greg. She's one step ahead of all of us.
Oh, okay. Well, and just to remind you, we sent this out. We first talked about this in September. We sent it out about a month in advance. We got questions and comments from various committee members. Thank you. Hopefully we've addressed all those. And so tonight is kind of final run through and recommendations. So thank you.
All right, carry on, Jeff.
Perfect. Yep. And as Greg said, and he's already stolen some of my thunder on a few of the projects that I was going to give updates on. But as he said, it's a representation of material that that everybody's seen before. Just a reminder of what's in the CIP. It's been a few months, and so just before we ask for that motion of support, we just wanted to kind of give a quick rundown on the CIP. So, next slide. And so our CIP is built on extensive planning efforts. We continue to perform planning efforts, and as one of the projects that are coming in our plan is an amendment to our sanitary system master plan based on the Happy Valley Carver planning area acceptance. Here we're going to be modifying our sanitary sewer master plan. So these are living documents that we look at and review regularly and try to maintain them to be up to the annual needs of what we have, and to make sure that we're planning appropriately based on the area around us as well. But so in 2017, we kicked off an extensive amount of planning all the way through 2023, finishing up our storm system master plan. But just to note that the projects identified in our CIP are based on extensive planning efforts. And next slide. I just want to note that we think about capital plans. We often think growth and expansion, but that's typically, at least for us, that's not our major driver. We're about 60-40 in reliability, which means aging infrastructure that we need to replace or rehab, versus capacity, which is considered growth. And a lot of that is based on the fact that a majority of our facilities were built in the 80s. And so it is now coming up time to, we're coming up on 40 plus years of existence of most of these facilities, and it's time to really start diving back in and replacing and rehabbing those facilities. So just to note that we have about a 60% in reliability and 40% in capacity is the split on our financial piece. Next slide. And then just a slide from what has changed in the CIP. This would be not changed since you saw it last, but changed from 2022 calendar year when you saw it. And so we, as I've mentioned a number of times here that I've spoken, we've updated all of our project costs to 2023 dollars. So as you saw our planning efforts, some of them were back in 2017. And we've had record inflation to deal with and manage. And so now we've really tried to bring all of those dollars up based on an index to today's dollars. We added some new projects. I mentioned the re-looking at our sanitary sewer master plan, but we're also going to do a Hoodland facility plan. We've got the Bolton Force Main project that we've added. That's based on some repair work we've had to do on the Bolton Force Main. So we're going to take a deeper dive into looking at that and determine what's a good path forward to keep that running. Clackamas Force Main is another one, the Mount Talbot realignment. These are all things that come up, and that's kind of why I say that it's really a living document. We do our best. It's a snapshot in time, but every year things change and we learn new things in our system. So we're always adding and adjusting. William?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm just questioning the process. Once we've reviewed this and assuming that it gets approved, is this then going to be presented to the BCC?
That's correct. The CIP itself would go to the BCC for their acceptance.
Okay, then on the previous slide where you showed the 60-40 split, that just might be a nice little graphic to stick on there to make sure they understand how that's split out.
That's a great comment. And I had previously a graphic, a pie chart that showed kind of that 60-40 split, and I just was paring it down for this presentation. So I'll make sure to get that slide back in there. That's a good suggestion, William. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. As Greg mentioned, we're kicking into the Kellogg admin building remodel. Our last year's plan had those two flip-flopped in the timing. We are moving the Rock Creek Intersector Extension project up a year. We're getting going on it. The finishing line will be the same, but we're going to give ourselves an extra year to get going on it based on the number of easements we need. We got some grant money to do work in boring, so we're going to relook at that and determine what we can use that grant money for and the best way to spend that money. Our storm system master plan wasn't adopted at that point when we had our CIP put together last year, so that's added a number of new projects.
Who was that grant from?
Oh, Aaron, you want to help me there on that one? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. For the
I can
boring is
jump
what
in.
you're talking
It was-
about. Yep, sorry, William.
It was a federal earmark.
Yeah.
So William, you missed a couple meetings and a lot of stuff happened and really cool stuff happened with monies, both the Metro monies and the federal monies, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, 1.3 million?
Now I'll ask Aaron.
It-
I'm not recalling the boring funding amount. The coronavirus state and local federal relief funds for the stormwater projects is 2.4, just under 2.4 million. I think boring was 3 million,
Okay,
2 million. And
2 million is what I have in my head. Yep.
Yep.
and I'm thinking of Kellogg Creek, yeah. Or the
Three Creeks.
Three Creeks, yeah.
Yeah, so the Three Creeks, we had applied for a grant probably 18 months ago. Didn't expect, we'd applied for, I think, 2 other previous to that, didn't get them. This one is the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. So weren't really expecting to get it, and it proceeded to what we call 60% design on the Three Creeks project, and then found out about a month ago that we got, so that was about a $4.5 million project. Metro grant was 620,000. Anyway, the grant amount from NFWF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, was an additional $3.8 million.
3.8, yes.
Which is just a massive amount of money. And so it's great, we can do more work there, but being at 60% design and getting that amount of money is going to slow the project down, because we have to kind of take a step back from an engineering design standpoint. So a happy thing, but there will be some downstream consequences.
That get you what you needed, William?
You're muted.
I was just apologizing for interrupting, and I didn't realize that I had missed a couple of meetings.
I thought you had missed a couple of meetings. My bad.
That's all right.
If you were there, sorry.
It's all right.
No, and I would prefer, if you have questions, interrupt. That's not a problem at all, for at least for this presentation, for sure. And then we split the project funding. So for some of our stormwater where we have shared facilities, we split those costs. We allocated those costs to the different, whether it's sanitary or storm. We tried to allocate those, capture those costs spread to the appropriate utility that they were serving. And then the last one was, we really adjusted our projections for the next 5 fiscal years. We were always kind of looking in arrears to what we had budgeted, and as opposed to forward. And so this year we took a step, and we're really looking at fiscal year 24 to 29. So that's just a change there. Next slide. And so this is our projected annual spending on the next 5 years. You'll see 2 really big numbers to start with, and it does taper off. And a lot of that, as Greg mentioned, is driven by the Outfall project. That's a $58 million project that'll be built that'll be operational in 2026. And so, of that 130 million, 58 of that is one single project there. So a very big project. And then just to note, our last plan had 47.9 million in 24-25, and we're at 75. And so just they're indexing up to current costs has had an impact for sure on our overall and expected annual spending. Next slide. And as I previously said, we did not have a finalized surface water master plan at the time where we put together the last CIP. And so this slide represents all the projects identified in the storm system master plan, and is really an unupdated 5-year look based on that plan that was adopted last year between updating CIPs. So a significant amount of work, a lot more than what we have historically done on the stormwater side. And then next slide, I'll highlight a few of the big projects. So on the Outfall project, I mentioned the construction piece is 58.4 million. The overall project, including all of the design work and engineering services and permitting and all of that is $66.4 million. The board approved the GMP to move forward with final design and construction just a few weeks ago. We're building a 90-inch diameter outfall. And once we get under construction, we'll gladly invite the advisory committee out for a tour to see the tunnel. It's going to be a 10-foot diameter horizontal tunnel. So it's going to be quite an endeavor building that portion of the outfall, getting from the Main Street roundabout out into the river. That'll be built over 2 years. We'll build the first tunnel out to the river in this coming summer, summer of 24, and then we'll come back in the summer of 25 in the next in-water period and build our diffuser piece of the pipeline. And that is really in coordination with the I-205 bridge project and making sure that we can all occupy the river and have space in the river to build our two projects, and also to protect our diffusers and pipeline out into the river from anything that might happen from the ODOT bridge project.
Excuse me, in addition to the ODOT bridge project, I know that the city of Oregon City has just approved their Clackamas Park master plan. And I don't know who from West is coordinating with the city regarding what they might want to do. They're thinking about moving the RV park and a bunch of other things, but I hope that there's going to be some coordination going on there.
Absolutely. We've been coordinating with Oregon City the whole time on our project. And the nice part about the way we're building our tunnel, our pipeline, is we'll actually come out into the river. We will not actually be digging any part of the park up. We'll tunnel right out into the river. And so we will impact the piles there that are in front of the John Storm boat dock there. We will navigate through there. And so we'll be temporarily removing a few of those and putting them back when we're done tunneling. But that's really the only impact to the park we'll have, other than occupying space in the river adjacent. So that was one of the nice parts about the tunneling approach that we landed on, was it eliminated any kind of disturbances in the park for our project.
Yeah, excuse me, I wasn't clear, Jeff. I'm not talking about the proposed new outfall. I'm talking about the existing outfall that goes under the Clackamas Park.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that I just had a concern about.
Okay, and that one will stay just where it's at. We're not touching that. It'll be our second outfall. So I haven't heard of anything from Oregon City that they're going to impact our outfall at this point in their master planning efforts. None of the conversations I've had have raised concerns about that staying where it's at.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we have not been approached to kind of be part of that process, or that our outfall will be impactful, except for they did approach us with some ideas about where they could relocate the RV dump station and utilize our system. And we expressed an openness to do that, but I don't think anything came out of that with respect to us. So,
thank you.
Perfect. Next project. Clackamas Interceptor Program. This one is really multiple projects rolled up into one. We're calling it a program. It's really the lower, the middle, and the upper Clackamas interceptors. I think we've done a number of driving tours of this. If you haven't had an opportunity to join one, if we do more, we'll be happy to invite you. It is interesting to see kind of that routing. It's not straightforward, and it goes through a lot of different diverse areas, from commercial, industrial, park settings. And so it is a main artery for our system. And this is really what gets all of the growth out east, back to Kellogg Creek, which is where it normally flow. And then I have the next slide. We talk about a pump station that we're upsizing to then transfer that flow away from Kellogg Creek down to the Tri-City plant. As you know, Kellogg Creek is capped and limited at 25 million gallons a day. So all growth beyond what flow to 25 will go down to the Tri-City plant. Just to note, the kind of the blue, the yellow, and the green lines are really the lower, middle, and upper Clackamas interceptors. And then there's thank you, Chris. That's the blue, that's the lower piece. And then the yellow is the middle piece. That's actually the first piece that'll get built, is the middle piece. So what we're doing from a design perspective is designing it all at one time. We'll take it all to 60% design, and then we'll start taking different packages out to final design. But we need to make sure that it all works together, which is why we're designing it initially all together as one big project. Adam?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you say that again about Kellogg Creek? I apologize if you can repeat that part. You're
Sure,
talking
no
about how
problem.
it's going to take that capacity.
So Kellogg Creek, there's no room for expansion of process. We will be able to handle solids as our plan from the facility plan, but any kind of growth in the increase in flows will be pumped to the Tri-City facility.
Jeff, this is Shelley. I'm sorry, because we do have a new committee member. I think we're talking about the
Sure.
Kellogg Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility, not the creek itself. I just want to add clarity.
Yes, that's
there,
correct. I
please.
apologize. Shelley has told me to be more clear on that, so that's my fault.
And
Yeah,
if I
sorry.
might, sorry, if I might chime in, this goes back to an agreement back in 2012, before Councilor Khosrowshahi's term, where we agreed to cap the capacity there. And what the city was really concerned about at the time was expanding the footprint of the facility, which we have 100% committed to not doing. Whether we can expand the capacity sometime in the future within that footprint with minimal impact, maybe we can reopen that discussion down the road if necessary. But that's kind of a little bit of the history.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it. If I heard it correctly.
Shelley?
Yes, I just want to also, because we do have a new member joining us tonight, I think, Jeff, would you mind talking about why the yellow line is first? Because if we look at sort of the progression, why we're bringing it online first before the others, I think that'd be helpful as a refresher.
Sure. So that is the flattest portion of that interceptor. And so when we ran our collection system model, so we put together a model that looks at our collection system and what areas come into our interceptors. And that will allow us to look at how rain events, because typically what we're looking at for capacity is during a wet weather event. And so we look at how our system responds to rain events. And so we have a design storm that's roughly a once every 5 year storm that we design around. And so what was found in our collection system master plan model was that was the piece that was at capacity essentially. And so in order to allow the growth out east and up the Rock Creek, we need to increase capacity on that middle section first. The other two portions are coming up against capacity, but not quite the bottleneck. There's generally more, because there's more slope in those other portions, we don't run into the same issues. And when we talk about capacity of an interceptor, we're looking at not only the pipe, but we're looking at surcharges even up to a foot of the ground surface is kind of how we size our sewers. And so there's a hydraulic grade line that is developed. And so we look to make sure that that stays within our pipe or within our manholes, no closer than a foot to the surface. So that's kind of our criteria for sizing and designing.
Thank you.
Is that helpful? And I'd be happy to talk in more detail on that particular system holistically. If there's somebody that would like to meet and chat about kind of how our system's laid out, I'm open to that. Just let me know.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Anything else on the Clackamas? I think that's it. Next slide. And so this was the other piece of the Clackamas interceptor. When we built the MBR facility to take flows away from Kellogg Creek Resource Recovery Facility, we had to build a pump station to pull those flows off of that in the Clackamas interceptor and send them down to the Tri-City Resource Recovery Facility. During that construction, they built a pump station that was ready to be increased in capacity in phases, and they built a 20-inch force main, and they built portions of a 30-inch force main. In the harder to construct areas, ODOT crossings where there was rock, they really took a good stab at making sure that we had a nice corridor to build our 30-inch force main to complete that project. But portions of it were built initially, and now we're coming back through and doing the second phase of this pump station and force main project, which is to complete the remaining 7 segments of the 30-inch force main and to increase the capacity of the pump station. With this increase, we'll have a capacity of 35 million gallons a day out of this pump station that we could pull flows and send them to the Tri-City Resource Recovery Facility. And just from a geographic location, I know sometimes slides are hard, but this is over by the Lowe's from a geographic location. So we're basically pulling flows from the Lowe's and sending it down to the Tri-City facility. And then the next slide. And I always like to highlight that not everything we do are significant dollar value capital projects. As part of our capital plan, we actually have some ongoing projects that have a budget year over year. And so these programs include the treatment plant rehab and replacement. These are for items like a pump fails and we need to replace it, or we want to make a small process improvement project that's, on the magnitude of $100,000 or $200,000, nothing super significant. And so we have the same thing set up at our pump station rehab and replacement, and then our collection system rehab. And so we generally meet at the beginning of the fiscal year and we look at what kinds of needs are at each plant. And then we try to look at a likelihood of failure and a consequence of failure and try to prioritize those projects to make sure that we're hitting the areas that have high consequence of failure. That's really where we want to kind of just to focus in on, is those areas where it would be really hard on us if something failed. And so we try to stay out in front of that. And that's really at the treatment plant and pump station. And then the collection system rehab, we collect all this CCTV data with our TV truck out looking at pipelines all year long. We collect that video and we review that video and identify where we have point repairs or root intrusions and things that we need to get done and repair. And then every year we put out a package to go out in our system and make those repairs and improvements. And so that one is really, capitalizing on the data collection that we're having. And we try to use our data to make good prioritized decisions based on risk. But those are invaluable programs and they're every year. And it is always, I kind of find them fun to work with staff, because it's a lot of those types of things that are brought up that can really make our operators' lives a lot easier by doing small little things around the plant. Not only easier, but safer. You'll see the ladders that were the picture there is a picture of a ladder. We added some ladders to get up on some building roofs and stuff that didn't exist before, that they had to use lean ladders before. And so it was just some of those types of things to make operations lives safer and easier. And then next slide. I'll turn it over to Aaron for the next slide.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. So this is the abridged version of the financial planning piece that was presented in more detail in the first presentation. One of the steps entails in capital planning and the annual CIP proposal is to update our financial planning model to incorporate any changes in capital spending and forecast resulting rates. As Jeff already shared, the proposed CIP represents a significant increase from our adopted CIP, as well as the 5-year projected spending that we used during this year's budget. On the wastewater side, the proposed CIP is $24.6 million higher than our budget projections and approximately $48 million higher than the adopted CIP, primarily due to indexing costs, as Jeff covered. On the surface water side, expected capital spending is $1.9 million higher than our 5-year projections used during the budget, and about $10.6 million higher than the adopted CIP, due both to incorporating the storm system master plan as just shared, as well as indexing costs to bring those up to today's dollars. In incorporating the updated capital costs into our long-range financial plan, we held our economic assumptions steady with a 5% annual increase in overall operating maintenance costs and an assumed 1% increase in growth in Wes's service area. Our modeling also assumes inflationary only increases of approximately 2% per year to Wes's system development charge fees, or SDC fees, although we are planning to revisit Wes's SDC fee methodology over the course of this next year after the new CIP is adopted. We're estimating we'll end this current fiscal year with approximately $146 million in construction and SDC funds. And thanks in large part to building reserves over the last several years, as well as debt capacity due to careful financial planning, we are able to fully fund the proposed CIP and adhere to the previous guidance from this committee of 5% rate increases for wastewater by making some changes to the timing and the structure of our debt issuance. Those changes include issuing debt 2 years earlier than prior modeling, relying more heavily overall on debt financing versus rate revenues or SDC revenues, and modifying the structure of our financing to use a 30-year borrowing term rather than a 25-year term. The adjustment in the borrowing term also enables us to lower our projected rate increases on the surface water side to 5.25% from the earlier projection we developed during the storm system master plan proposal of 6% per year. So that's good news there. The earlier issuance of debt does impact WES's debt service coverage ratios, and that's shown on the chart on this slide. The blue line represents the debt service coverage ratio under the proposed CIP, and the green line represents the debt service coverage ratio under the currently adopted CIP. Under WES's current bond covenants, we're required to maintain debt service coverage of 120% or 1.2 times annual debt service. But for financial planning, we've established a target of 140%, both to demonstrate our creditworthiness to potential investors, to ensure that we have access to low-cost capital in the market. As shown, those two lines diverge when we start to issue debt in just 2 years. So the blue line starts to go down and it continues to go down until 2030-31, when we begin to rebuild that capacity when capital spending slows. But we do stay above that 140% or 1.4 target, thanks to reducing our annual debt service through lengthening the borrowing term to that 30 years as discussed. Next slide, please. As we've shared in the past, the CIP is one of the most significant. Oh, Christopher.
Yeah, I was just curious, do you anticipate that impacting your credit rating? I think you're AAA right now, right?
Yes. We are still AAA. That was just affirmed in February of 2021 when we issued the Series 2021 bonds. But as our coverage ratio declines and our reserves decline, we do anticipate the current rating decreasing to potentially a AA. That's what we were before we were elevated to a AAA, and that will likely impact the rate at which we're able to borrow. Great question.
How often do they adjust that?
Generally, just when we're going out to issue, they can periodically revisit rates as well if there are significant changes in the market or the industry or underlying economic conditions. But for the past several years, our rates have only been adjusted during active borrowing.
But Aaron, this is Greg. It was my experience that the rating difference between AA and AAA isn't really significant. It's not like 1 percentage point or something.
No, I was just looking at this this evening, and it's about 0.1 to 0.2% right now. So yeah, it's
Not
pretty
very-
minor.
Yeah.
Carol.
And this long range planning that you do certainly also helps with the ratings, right? By looking many years forward, then they get the sense, the raters get the sense that you are planning ahead and being prepared for various different things to happen.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you. When we gave the rating presentation to S&P Global in 2021, they were very interested in the CIP, and that was one of the main components of the presentation. So thank you, Carol. It's a great point. All right, next slide, please. So as we shared in the past, the CIP is one of the key inputs in WES's annual budget, but overall capital and financial planning are an iterative process. And as you can see from the chart on this slide, there are many opportunities for stakeholder input. Our annual budget process is going to kick off in just a couple of months in January and go through late April, early May when we present the budget to this committee and then the budget committee. And during the course of our budget planning, we'll have new information that we don't have at this time. And that information could impact the rates that we propose and could cause us to revisit the funding and timing of projects if the resulting rate increases would impact ratepayers. All right, next slide, I think back to Jeff.
Thank you, Aaron. And just a summary slide to close out and kind of identify the next steps. We've mentioned them, but the 24 to 29 wastewater CIP is 239.8 million, and the surface water CIP is 19.8 million. Our request tonight is a motion of support for taking this plan to the board. And if we do receive a motion of support tonight, then we will be working to present to the Board of County Commissioners for adoption in January or at the start of next year. And I
Very
think we
good.
just have, if there's any questions,
Questions?
any more
Yes.
questions.
Do I see any hands? Greg D.
I'm ready to make a motion when you're ready, Madam Chair.
All right, I was just gonna leave it open for a second or two since we do have a new member and anyone that might have anything, Mayor Milch.
I just wanted to commend the staff for the process of presenting this to us, the ability to raise questions in advance. Sometimes a Zoom meeting and even sometimes an in-person meeting doesn't lend itself well to getting questions answered with the kind of depth that they require. And I appreciated being able to read Mr. DiLoretto's questions and the questions that came from the representative of the watershed group. That, you know, they raise issues that didn't occur to me. And I'm used, as an elected official, I'm used to having questions that come up from city councilors shared by staff with all the council so that we're all on the same page. And you all really did a good job of that in this process and sending those out to us in advance. So, you know, keep up this kind of good communication, because it really makes the process easier and makes us more confident that, you know, that we're covering all the bases on these kinds of decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Milch. And I agree. That's one of the reasons I love this committee. There's so much transparency, and I love that we're free to ask questions when we have questions, and everybody else's questions actually help the rest of us know what's going on. So appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up for a motion. Do I hear a motion of support?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Greg DiLoretto, thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Yes.
I'm not sure who beat you, but I've got a second from William Gifford. We got a motion, we got a second, and I'm going to have Chris go through and do a roll call vote on this.
I want to be clear that our motion is that we're recommending to the Board of County Commissioners approval of the capital improvement plan from 2024 through 2029.
Yes,
That's the actual we're doing.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, Greg. Yes. Yes. And this is a motion of support. We are not approving this. We are moving this. This is a motion of support to move it to the BCC for their approval, because we've done the hard work.
True.
Alrighty, I will go ahead and call on everybody and just let me know your vote. Christopher Bowker.
Yes, yay, in support.
Yay, it is. Councillor Brake.
Yes.
Richard Craven.
Yes.
Greg DiLoretto.
Yes.
Anthony Fields.
Yes.
William Gifford.
Yes.
Councillor Goloby.
Aye.
Renee Harbor.
Yes.
Diana Helm.
Aye.
Brian Johnson.
Was that Ryan or Roseanne?
It was Brian.
Brian.
And then
It's
you're,
yes.
yes from Brian. All right. Roseanne, you're next.
Yes.
Councillor Khosrowshahi.
Aye.
Preston Korst.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes.
Catherine Miller.
Yes.
And did I miss anybody? I think so. And the motion passes.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. All right. This will be going
Here,
before
Helen,
the-
excuse
Yes.
me. Do we know when this is going to be presented to the BCC?
I believe is it the January or February meeting, Greg?
It's likely going to be the January 17th meeting, but I will confirm with everybody once we have confirmation on our end for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to know about that meeting up at the campus, because I would like to be there as well during the presentation.
Yeah, and as soon as we secure a spot on the agenda, we will let folks know. And if you'd like to come and say something, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jeff and Aaron. These have been great presentations, very interesting. And this was the Reader's Digest version tonight. They did pare this down since we have seen it before. So some of the slides were shortened and for time's sake. So appreciate you guys taking the time to do that too. So that's checked off. Yay. That's a big one, right? Long time coming. So I'm going to turn it over then to Greg Geist for the strategic plan update.
All right. Thank you, Diana. I just want to start out by thanking Shelley Perini for this. This is really her brainchild. She's been the champion and the architect of this. Can we bring up the presentation? Thank you. You know, this is really a celebration. It's been a labor of love and a lot of work and a lot of thoughtful listening, planning, and development of this. So next slide. So our engagement process, again, it's been a lot of thoughtful listening. We've received tons of input from our staff, from you folks, from stakeholders out in the community, from folks that aren't even necessarily that connected to WES. Looking back all the way back to 2020 with our Clean Water Exchange, when we were out talking to community members, stakeholders, the advisory committee, our WES Exchange, which was really more focused on our internal alignment with our strategic plan. We went through a process that's kind of an internationally recognized I don't know, symbol of excellence, which is this effective utility management framework that's used all over the world to really help define and guide utilities to be effective in 10 different areas. We're focusing on 7, which I'll talk about, and then another Clean Water Exchange in 2023. So lots of engagement, lots of thoughtful listening, lots of appreciative inquiry, as Shelley would say. And again, Shelley, please feel free to jump in at any time. All right, next slide. So one of the things we're also proud of, our vision statement, be a collaborative partner in building a resilient clean water future where all people benefit and rivers thrive. It's long, so we, as part of our Performance Clackamas plan, which is kind of a more detailed plan that's very focused on the county, there's lots of metrics for performance as far as, goals and outcomes and measurements. This is a higher level view of all that, and where we can bring it up and talk more to the community and talk more to our people and talk more to you without kind of we're going to count this many beans for this year or whatever. But anyway, I'm very proud. I think that we're kind of living our vision statement. We're definitely focused on partnerships. For those of you that have been around a while, we have our Solve partnerships. We're working with business alliances. We're working with watershed councils. We're working with, established good neighbor agreements. So I love this vision statement, and I think it's going to stay with us for hopefully a very, very long time and be a key part of our future success. All right, next slide. The mission statement. So I'm not going to read this one. It's a little long. And the reason it's a little long is because through our work within WES, our staff within the WES Exchange process really value seeing themselves in our mission statement and the work that they do in our vision statement. And I think this does capture that. So next slide. And out of all of that, we have certain focus areas that rose to the top. And these are the 6 areas that we will very intentionally focus on for the foreseeable future. I don't see this changing a lot. Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, Greg, could I add something?
Yes, absolutely.
This is really in the WES Exchange. So the vision I think Greg did a wonderful job. As one of the things we heard in the Clean Water Exchange, that we can't save a clean water future, even with our best work alone, that it's going to require us working in partnership. And as he said, the mission statement was really a great description from our staff who helped write it, literally, of who we are, what we do, and why we matter. And these are really the areas of pride, what we take pride in essence, sort of our core values that we focus on. And again, really coming out of our staff. And if we were to wear sort of a badge or a symbol of pride, these would be the 6 focus areas that we would proudly talk about.
Thank you, Shelley. Well said. Next slide. So these are the 7 strategies. I mentioned the kind of 10 focus areas of the effective utility management. We distilled that down through this process to kind of 7 strategies. And we've presented this to you previously, and it's part of our performance Clackamas plan. But this is kind of the core 7 strategies of the work that we're going to be doing. Yeah, and again, these are not flash in the pan. This is not something that we're presenting to you and we're going to put on a shelf. These are our core long-term strategies. Anything to add, Shelley?
No, I just want to thank the leadership team, Greg's team, for really working on this throughout the past spring and summer. And so one of the things that I hope that some of you had an opportunity to read in the strategic plan, we went into more detail on the goals, and Aaron Blue, Matt House, and Ron have been working hard on putting together a workbook where we'll include the objectives and measurements. And Greg will be talking about that in a moment so that we can report out on how we're doing. But this is, again, these are long-term. In the plan, I just wanted to reiterate that it talks about the roadmap. We're calling it 2025 because that's when we're going to check in. But really, the strategies that have been developed are longer term in nature.
Yeah. Next slide. So yeah, and as Shelley just mentioned, we are using 2025 as kind of the next milestone to revisit this stuff. We think these are pretty, in the Army speak, durable goods. But we do want to continue to revisit and refine them. And again, it's kind of a 3-tiered cake. What I'm presenting now is the big picture. What I won't go into is the rest of the strategic plan, and then also, as Shelley mentioned, beneath that is our performance Clackamas plan, which really gets into the nuts and bolts and how we're going to hold ourselves accountable and set targets. How many catch basins are we going to clean per year? How many miles of pipe are we going to inspect and do TV inspect per year? How many, what are our expectations around vehicle replacement, and all of the really kind of in the weeds stuff, but it is very important from an accountability standpoint. So we're taking it from big picture to strategic plan, priorities, goals, and then how we're going to measure our performance and come back to this group periodically and say, here's how we're doing, here's our strengths, here's our weaknesses, here's what we need to work on. And we've done that before with past performance Clackamas presentations where we're doing really great right now at, instead of responding to equipment that breaks, we are proactively working on that equipment. And in some areas we're not, we can use some improvement, where like catch basin cleaning, for example, during the pandemic, we kind of fell off because we had to have, it was difficult to put 2 people in a truck and be very efficient in how we were going out and doing that work. And we acknowledge that, and we're going to get better at it. So all in all, it's big picture, long term. This is what kind of our goals are, not our goals, our values, our vision, our mission. It goes down into goals, and then also into here's how we're going to hold ourselves accountable and come back to you and demonstrate that accountability.
And Greg, the only other thing I would add, because as we saw from Jeff's earlier presentation, so this is the district plan where all of the other plans sort of fall into and feed into underneath these 7 strategies. So it all fits together. They're not separate plans. This holds them all sort of in one district umbrella.
Yes. Well said, Shelley. Thank you.
Next
So
one.
again, this is more of a celebration and acknowledgement to Shelley in particular, being the architect and champion of most of this work. And I'm very proud of it. And I think you all should be too.
All right.
Any
So,
questions,
I-
comments?
Chair Helm, before we
Yep.
go to questions and comments, because
Yes.
Christopher would know it would be remiss if I didn't ask this. I have a pop quiz.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Here we go.
And the reason for everyone around the screen, I think most everyone knows I'm retiring. And so, so Greg is being very kind to me, but this was a collaborative effort. The strategic planning process has been years in the making. So, as is my style, can anyone name that gorgeous bird on the cover of the strategic plan? And I will have a gift for you. I really do. I will. A wonderful branded gift. Can anyone name that bird?
Renee. Oh, Renee's got her hand up first.
Renee?
It's a kingfisher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, but can you name the full name? There's another part of it. What kind of
Oh,
kingfisher?
belted.
Yes. Okay, Renee, now you're up to 3 guesses. I'll take you to lunch. Is it a male or a female?
Oh, that would just be a wild guess.
Yes.
Male.
No. Female.
Nice try.
Because of that little golden brown belt around it. Anyway, as I've learned from one of our in-house experts who let me know that it was a lovely lady belted kingfisher, and they actually are the opposite of most birds in nature, where the female takes on the more adornment role of the pair. There you go.
Wow. Learn something new every day.
And for those who've been, yeah, I was just going to finish. Those who've been with us through our rebranding, and Carol, you're new. The belted kingfisher is one of our branded icon critters that we hold true to our core value in representing river health. Sorry, Greg, just had to go.
Oh, no, I was going to say, in Renee's defense, at least the picture that I have is a silhouette, and so there's no gold band. So we can forgive Renee for missing that.
Renee, it is on the cover. Go back to the cover of the strategic plan. There you go. Good job, Renee. I'm proud of you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Greg, for that overview. And I do know Shelley did so much of this work, and she's very humble and does not take a lot of credit, but I know that she's put a lot of things together over the years and sits back and watches all the magic happen. So thank you, Shelley, for everything you do, and also keeping us on task as well. So were there any comments or questions on the strategic plan update? No?
Yeah.
So we're just going to move on. I want to take a moment to thank staff, especially for the hard work that they do. I know this team is amazing. I'm really proud to be part of it. I think that there's a lot of participation in this group that is really, really important to what we take before the BCC. And they recognize that. And that's one of the things I think Greg mentioned, is that they are very, very appreciative of all the hard work that we do, so that when it gets to them, they know all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted. So I appreciate all the smart people on this committee, and all the people who ask the questions that I don't think to ask, because I am not an expert in this. So, but I really appreciate everyone. And a special thank you to Christopher for the Lunch and Learns that he started this year. You did a great job. I did not make it to the last one, but I loved the first one that I attended, and I look forward to more. They're awesome. And thank you to Christopher and to Rita for your work on the River Health Grant. That was amazing too. And all of you for showing up and participating on so many things. I've done a couple of solve things, and it's just, this is a great committee. And I look forward to more involvement by everyone who feels like it. And if this is all you can give, that's fine too, because it's so important. This committee is really, really important to Greg. I know that. So that we are here for you, Greg. We got your back. And this is going to be, I think 2024 is going to be a great year. I think together we're making a difference, and I look forward to working with everyone next year. Does anyone have anything else to add before we adjourn this meeting early?
I wanted to give a little kudos to the presentation that Wes did at the Oregon City Business Alliance week before last, and it was very well received. We had enormous turnout, one of our best attended forums ever, and it was a lot of in-depth. There was no way we could have answered all the questions that the audience brought forth, but it was in-depth, and it was well thought out and well planned, and I want to thank everybody that worked on that.
Excellent. I wish I could have made it to that too. That there was something I had going on that day. Oh, it was my foot surgery or something, I think, that was prevented me from going.
It is recorded, so you can.
Oh, good. Oh, excellent. Yeah, because I'm really enjoying the OCBA meetings. I think they're very, very informative. And that's another thing I want to mention too. I have never seen a committee or a group go out as much as Greg and his team does in front of other groups. I mean, business alliances, chamber meetings, they go to city council meetings, work sessions. They're out there, they're communicating, and kudos to you for doing that, because I don't see a lot of other organizations doing that to the degree that Wes does. So I think it's excellent job. So, and Chris, the recording of the Fall Lunch and Learn is coming soon too. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? Wow, the last meeting of the year, you guys. Means you get December off. Yay.
I might just piggyback. I was going to say I think it was the last Solve event. I was finally able to make one of those. I know Shelly's been really reminding me of those and kind of scheduling ones that work with my schedule, and was able to go on that. And it was just a wonderful experience, very well attended.
Yes.
I was surprised. It was great. And I think that just goes to show you the community support that Wes has. I think we had people all the way from Gresham who came out for this cleanup that was in Gladstone. So I just thought that was so cool. And then I also wanted to say thank you, Diana. You've been chairing this for years now. You've been a fantastic chair. And I feel like you've been sort of the glue that's really held this advisory committee together.
That's Shelly. You've got the wrong person, Chris. It's Shelly and Greg. It's
well, there's
everybody.
multiple adhesives involved, I suppose. But I
Team
just want to say
effort.
thank you. You were instrumental to the success of this group.
Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. I really enjoy doing it. It really is. It's relaxed. It's conversational. It's not as intense as a city council meeting, all those lovely things, right? So yeah. All right. Well, good. Thank you, everyone. And
sorry, just one quick thing. I was also at that event in Gladstone, and it was great to see you there, Christopher. And the county public and government affairs videographers were there and put together a pretty cool video. And I'm sure Chris can send it out to the group if we haven't already. Chris Carrico, who's the I don't know what her title is, but she's the director, I guess, of Solve, spoke eloquently. And I have to give it to county PGA staff. They managed to edit my remarks in a way that ultimately became coherent and relatively germane to this. Like I was like, wow, they did a great job of editing that. So anyway, it was fun, and we'll send out the video.
Very good. Thank you. And with winter coming, everyone do your winterizations, be prepared. Greg, I hope you don't have any alarm bells going off. I think you guys, all your maintenance things you guys have been doing is going to be very helpful for prep this winter. But everyone take good care of yourself, and we'll see you in January. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, and have happy holidays.
Shout out to the veterans.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
veterans.